who work with us, and of course, my partner, Rabbi Sharon Cohn-Annisfeld, serves as continued inspiration for me as a leader. I'd like to welcome you all to the 100th commencement exercise. I'm honored to open these ceremonies on behalf of the Board of Trustees, and I'd like you to please join me in acknowledging our 2025 graduates and our faculty and trustees and administration. Among the numerous honors I have, on Friday I had the honor of signing every single diploma certificate, and I said every name out loud, so if at around 12 and 1 you heard some connection to the universe, that was me connecting with you. Our heartfelt mazel tov to our graduates, their families, members, and friends. And we're immensely proud of your achievements and your promising career journeys, which is needed now more than ever. I now turn our commencement exercises over to Hebrew College President, Rabbi Sharon Cohn-Annisfeld.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and good afternoon. Graduates, faculty, trustees, trying to catch everybody's eyes, really honored guests, alumni, families, and friends. To our graduates, on behalf of your teachers, the entire Hebrew College Board of Trustees, and the entire Hebrew College community, I'm delighted to congratulate you for the first of many times today, and wish you a warm and heartfelt mazel tov. To all those who have supported you and sustained you, who have rooted you and rooted for you, spouses, parents, grandparents, siblings, children, mentors, colleagues, extended family, and chosen family, thank you all, and congratulations and mazel tov to all of you as well. Throughout its history, Hebrew College has nurtured a vibrant, content-rich Jewish community through high-quality education. Each year at commencement, we begin by giving special recognition to individuals who have contributed to these goals and to the values we hold dear. Our first award today is in memory of Sidney Hilson and his student Rose Bronstein, and recognizes distinguished leadership and commitment to the centrality of the Hebrew language in Jewish education and culture. It is an honor to present the 2025 Hilson Bronstein Award to Maya Arad. I call upon Rabbi Jane Kanarek. There she is, you made it. Dean of our faculty, in from a flight this morning, I think, to join me in saying a few words about Maya.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Let me share Maya's bio before Jane shares some more personal remarks. Maya Arad is the author of 12 books of Hebrew fiction, as well as studies in literary criticism and linguistics. Born in Israel in 1971, she is a graduate of Tel Aviv University in classics and linguistics, and received a PhD in linguistics from University College London. For the past 20 years, she has lived in California, whereas she is currently writer-in-residence at Stanford University's Taub Center for Jewish Studies. She is the inaugural recipient of the Jewish Book Council, Jane Weitzman Prize for New Israeli Fiction, and the Newman Prize awarded by the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and the Newman Family Foundation. The Hebrew Teacher is her first book to appear in English translation and is the winner of the National Jewish Book Award for Hebrew Fiction in Translation for 2025. Her novel, Happy New Year's, will appear in translation in August this year. And now, Rabbi Kanarek.
I attended Hebrew school in Brookline at Keheleth Israel in the 1970s and 80s, a time when my Israeli teachers idealized kibbutz life, taught me basic grammar, and had us sing the version of David Melech Yisrael that includes that binary, Ima Abba. Yeah, exactly. After many years, though, of avoiding Hebrew, when I began to study it again in college, it was the Gulf War, and my Hebrew teacher created vocabulary lists for us filled with words like teal, missile, and cheder atum, sealed room. So as you can see, my Hebrew teachers have traveled with me. And so for me, Maya Arad's The Hebrew Teacher was not only about the particular college Hebrew teacher, Ilana, that she depicts in the book, or about Ilana's conflict with the new professor, Yoad Bergman Harari, who takes on his name, Bergman, in Maya Arad's words, to quote, negate the negation of the diaspora. It was also about my many teachers, their attempts to move between cultures, American and Israeli, Jewish and American, and their attempts to teach and inculcate in us an ability to feel, if not love, then at least an affinity for Israeli culture. It was about hearing the echoes of the ways that my Hebrew teachers taught me modern Israeli Hebrew. And for me, it was also about growing up in Brookline, a town with so many Israelis that the main office of my son's public school has a sign that says Misrad Harashi, main office. Maya Arad depicts powerfully what it means to love a particular culture and to try and teach that love, and then to feel oneself stranded when others love in a different way. She writes about being at home in a particular world and moving from that world, a move that can leave one unaware of how the world that you left has shifted as you create a home in another place. Arad speaks of the dislocation experienced by parents who visit their children in their new American home, and the dislocation these children feel with their parents. Arad's work is thus both universal and particular. She speaks to the immigrant experience in general, as well as, and crucially, to the very particular dislocations of Israeli Americans. As I read Maya Arad's work, the national story of Israel becomes the story of language teachers and literary theory, parents and children, American synagogue adult education, intimate friendship, chocolate babka, academic pretension, and regret and renewed hope. We are honored to honor Maya Arad here today.
Although Maya is unable to join us today, I'm honored to call upon Harvey Bach now, member of our faculty and teacher of Hebrew and Aramaic, to read some remarks from Maya.
Chaverim v'chaverot. I'm a writer, and my one job is to avoid cliches. And yet I cannot refrain from saying this: I am humbled by this award. Thank you so much for the trust you put in me. Here I am, invited to stand next to leaders and scholars such as David Saperstein and Marianne Buddy. How can I justify this trust? I step back and reflect on the sequence of events that brought me here. You confer on me the honor of the Hilson Bronstein Award in recognition of my literary works. In particular, you recognize the book that got published last year in Jessica Cohn's superb translation, The Hebrew Teacher. Let me guess that you thought in particular of the titular novella and of its protagonist, Ilana Goldstein. Ilana taught Hebrew at a Midwestern college for 40 years, and she discovers in the opening sentence of the novella that it wasn't a very good time for Hebrew. I tried to describe honestly and with sympathy the struggles that the Ilanas of this world go through. I like to think that it is Ilana and not me who receives this award, and she fully deserves it. You go out there day after day, year after year, trying to convey how we vocalize, how we conjugate, trying to keep an ancient language alive. And yet, in another corner of America, and every now and again, the world erupts around you, and besides binyanim and mishkalim, you also have to worry about boycotts and divestments. Ilana does all this, but also finds time, as Hebrew teachers across America invariably do, to share with her community Israeli culture and Hebrew literature. She will lead a book club at the local synagogue, and she will invite guest speakers. I often meet those Ilanas in my travels as an author, and I'm always impressed by their stamina and dedication. Of course, it always feels a bit uneasy to thank them to their faces, and yet I am a Hebrew author. How can I fail to express my gratitude to all of you who work tirelessly in preserving our Hebrew culture, all of you who deliver our Hebrew culture to the next generation. I'm glad that I can finally say this here. Thank you so much, Rabbi Sharon Cohen-Anisfeld and Nancy Kaplan-Belsky, for this trust and honor, and for this opportunity, finally, to express my gratitude.
Thank you so much, Harvey and Jane. And Mazal Tov, we have, I'm not presenting, but here's the honorary degree, which will be sent, the award that will be sent. I want to call up now Dr. Susie Tanchel, who will be helping to present our next award. This award is named for Dr. Benjamin Shevach, who left really an indelible mark on Jewish education in Boston. This year, we are very proud and honored to present the Shevach Award to Idit Klein. It is my pleasure to call upon Rabbi Or Rose to escort Idit to the podium. Where did the tradition come from?
Yes, you stand right here. I'm just going to talk a little bit about you. Great. All right. Idit Klein is a national leader for social change. Since 2001, she has served as the leader of Keshet, the National Organization for LGBTQ Equality in Jewish Life. Klein built Keshet from a local organization with an annual budget of $42,000. I totally remember those days. To a national organization with offices in 6 states and a multi-million-dollar budget. Under her leadership, Keshet has mobilized tens of thousands of Jewish leaders to make LGBTQ plus equality a communal value and priority for action. In addition, she has served as the executive producer of Keshet's documentary film Hineni, coming out in a Jewish high school, totally recommended if you haven't seen it, which inspired the formation of a GSA in Jewish schools around the country. Prior to leading Keshet, Klein worked professionally in the Israeli-Palestinian peace movement and social justice sector in Israel. She also was a leader in the Israeli LGBTQ community and helped envision the Jerusalem Open House. A magna cum laude graduate of Yale University, she earned her master's in education from the University of Massachusetts Amherst with a focus on social justice education. She serves on the board of the Jewish Social Justice Roundtable and publishes frequently in the Jewish and LGBTQ press.
She's never taller than me.
It's never him. Edith, it is an amazing honor to honor you with Hebrew College's highest award for excellence in educational leadership. Now, there are so many things to say about how your courageous and visionary leadership has transformed the landscape of Jewish life in North America and beyond since we first met in the fall of 1993 when you were an undergraduate at Yale and I was a very new, young Hillel rabbi. Thankfully, I'll have a chance to say more at the Keshet Gala on Wednesday night because I couldn't fit it all in here today. But since this is an award for educational leadership specifically, that's what I wanted to focus on for a few moments, the way in which your work over these last 24 years has been the work of an educator in the very deepest sense. A few years ago, I heard you say that when you came out in college, you thought about your third grade Orthodox rabbi and felt grateful to him. You went on to explain why. Quote, I had transferred from a public school to an Orthodox day school. I had never seen a Chumash, a book of Torah, so our Chumash teacher took me aside at the beginning of my first day of third grade. He put a Chumash in front of me on my desk and flipped it open. He pointed at the page and said, here is the main story. And then he pointed to the left-hand column and the bottom half of the page, and he said, and here are what two different people have to say about that story. Sometimes they disagree with one another. Sometimes I disagree with them. And you know what, he said to you? Sometimes you may disagree with them, or you may disagree with me. But remember, and he leaned down, so he looked me right in the eye, and said, remember, I always want to know what you think. I love that story. I love that story because of the gift of belonging your teacher gave you in that moment. As you've said, the message I got was that that book, an entire intellectual, spiritual, and ethical tradition, belonged to me just as much as it belonged to anyone else. I was part of it, and it was part of me. I had a place in our collective Jewish story, no question. I also love that story because you have passed that gift on to countless people since then. As the founder and leader of Keshet, you have changed truly countless Jewish communities, synagogues, schools, camps, families. You have changed curricula and programs and policies and communal norms. And through all of that, and beyond all of that, you have changed, and I suspect you have saved countless lives. I am thinking especially of the lives of young people for whom your leadership has meant that they belong. They belong in and to the Jewish story. They belong in and to the Jewish community. They belong in and to the world in the fullness of who they are. There is no more important and holy work. The book of Proverbs advises, teach a child according to their own path, and even when they grow old, they will not stray from it. Commenting on this verse, Rabbi Kalanimus Kalman Shapira, the Rebbe of the Warsaw Ghetto, writes, teach the child means, quote, to reach their inner being and reveal the holiness that is hidden there. A teacher is a gardener in the garden of God, assigned to cultivate it and guard it. Idit, you have been a gardener in the garden of God. Thank you for tending so carefully and skillfully and patiently to that garden, so that the souls of each precious member of our community can blossom and grow.
Trying to decide, do I want? Okay. I think no. Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Sharon. I'm really overwhelmed by those words. And as I just said to her amidst our hug, I can't believe you have to give more in a few days. I am so honored to be here to receive the Benjamin Shevach Award, and what an honor to share this day with my Arad, Bishop Marion Buddy, and Rabbi David Saperstein. But most of all, I am thrilled to wish each of you, the graduates, and your loved ones, an enormous, enormous Mazal Tov. I have some sense of the hard work, persistence, and profound commitment you have each invested to reach this day, and I know you are ready to serve the Jewish people with vision, creativity, and open hearts. You're taking on leadership in the Jewish world at a time that I think can be fairly described as the most critical and challenging period of our lifetimes. I know you're ready for it. This afternoon, I'd like to share a bit about my own journey to becoming a Jewish communal leader and 3 key learnings I've gained along the way. And we're all blessed that I didn't choose that story, which is also one of my favorites. Sharon and I did not coordinate. But it's true that my earliest memories are about belonging, starting a bit earlier than 3rd grade. So a quick story for you. I was 2 years old, and my parents and I came to the States from Israel for a year that continues to this day, 50 years later. I remember being in daycare and not wanting to speak English. I don't remember this part, but I'm told that I spent the first month pounding on the door and screaming in Hebrew over and over, I want to go back home, I want to go back to Israel. I'm sure I was a delight. I don't remember what I thought exactly about Israel, but I do remember this sense that that was where I felt ease and home. Ease and home, belonging. That is what each of us deserves to feel somewhere in the world, and certainly in the Jewish community. Yet we know that too many feel excluded from Jewish life. In my 24 years at Keshet, I have heard so many stories, and still in 2025, so many stories from queer Jews rejected by childhood rabbis, bullied in Hebrew school, stared at in the locker room or in a bunk at camp. And so at Keshet, as Sharon shared, we have helped move thousands of Jewish communities to become places of belonging for LGBTQ Jews. And so the first lesson I have learned over the years is that leadership is about cultivation of belonging for your staff, your congregation, your community, and those beyond your immediate community. When people feel that they belong, when they feel seen and valued, they find their power and their resilience. Another childhood memory, the first time someone encouraged me to think of myself as a potential Jewish leader, also in that Orthodox Jewish day school. The person who encouraged me was Rabbi Jay, my 7th grade Chumash and Gemara teacher. One morning, he took me aside and he said, "I know that someday you will be a great Jewish leader." I was 12. It had never occurred to me to think of myself as a leader of any kind in any community. But that day, something opened up to me, some kind of wondering of what could be. At Keshet, LGBTQ Jewish teens come together at Shabbatonim. It's beautiful to see young people deeply exhale, some of them for the first time in years, deeply exhale in a space where they can be fully themselves. And it's extraordinary to see these kids grow into powerful leaders within the Keshet youth community and in their broader home communities. All it takes is someone paying attention and saying to that kid, "Take the next step." And so my second learning to share with you, your leadership is more powerful when you invite others to inhabit their own leadership, to stretch way beyond what they thought possible. Finally, I want to share a more recent experience with you. Last June, as Pride Month was approaching, my colleagues and I heard from many LGBTQ Jews that they were scared of experiencing anti-Semitism at Pride. Some wondered whether we should skip having a Keshet presence at Pride altogether in order to keep our people safe. But we didn't want to hide. So we took a collective deep breath and shared our concerns and recommendations with Pride organizers in the 17 cities and towns where Keshet planned to have a Pride presence around the country. And one interaction in particular stands out. This was at Miami Pride. Equality Florida, the statewide LGBTQ rights organization there, was right in front of us in the parade lineup. And their staff approached ours and they said, "We know things have been rough for the Jewish community and people might be feeling vulnerable. So you can march with us. If things heat up at any point, know that you can just merge into our contingent and we will surround you." My learning from this experience: leadership is about investing in connections and solidarity. Leadership is about seeing each other's humanity. It's about establishing real relationships and pushing across lines of difference. Not easy, often painful, but it's almost always deeply worth it. The writer Grace Paley once said, "Let us go forth with fear and courage and rage to save the world." I offer you that charge, but I encourage you that in addition to fear and courage and rage, which we certainly need today, in addition to those sentiments, you bring joy and hope with you as you bring your leadership to the world. Joy in who you are and what has shaped you, and hope for what you can make possible. I can't wait to see what you will bring to our Jewish communities, to our world, and how you will change it all for the better. Mazal tov.
It is now my privilege to award 2 special honorary degrees. Our first honorary degree candidate, Bishop Marianne Buddy, is unable to be here with us this afternoon. I'm pleased to call upon Rabbi Daniel Klein to join me in saying a few words about her, and then we'll have a chance to hear from her by video.
Marian Edgar Buddy serves as spiritual leader for 86 congregations in 10 Episcopal schools in the District of Columbia and 4 Maryland counties. The first woman elected to this position, she also serves as the chair of the Protestant Episcopal Cathedral Foundation, which oversees the ministries of the Washington National Cathedral and cathedral schools. A passionate believer in the gospel of Jesus and the Episcopal Church's particular witness, Bishop Buddy is committed to the spiritual and numerical growth of congregations in developing new expressions of Christian community. She believes that Jesus calls all who follow him to strive for justice and peace and to respect the dignity of every human being. To that end, Bishop Buddy is an advocate and organizer in support of justice concerns, including racial equity, gun violence prevention, immigration reform, the full inclusion of LGBTQ+ persons in the care of creation. Bishop Buddy was consecrated as the 9th Bishop of Washington in November 2011. She's the author of 3 books, How We Learn to Be Brave, Decisive Moments in Life and Faith, Receiving Jesus, the Way of Love, and Gathering Up Fragments, Preaching as Spiritual Practice. Rabbi Anisfeld, it is my privilege to present Bishop Buddy to receive the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
As I watched Bishop Marianne Buddy address the President and Vice President of the United States in her sermon at the National Cathedral on Inauguration Weekend this past January, I thought of these striking words from the Bible scholar, Dr. Yochanan Mapps of blessed memory. Quote, "Any meeting of personalities requires great bravery. One who attempts to communicate with another endangers his own life, for to do this he must reveal what is in his heart. Such an act is potentially dangerous because one does not know ahead of time if he will find a receptive ear. There is always the possibility that the ear of the listener will be impervious." Indeed, quietly, respectfully, and without a trace of bluster, Bishop Buddy showed us all what real courage looks like that morning. I have been teaching homiletics, the art of sermon writing and sermon giving, to our rabbinical students for the last 20 years. And I knew immediately that the footage from that moment would need to be added to my syllabus for next year. Not only because of Bishop Buddy's courage, but because of the hope that she offered to so many people for whom this has been a time of ever-deepening fear. In teaching about the art of giving sermons, I often talk with students about the importance of the nechemta, the importance of leaving people with hope. Now, hope is a tricky word because people mean such different things by it. It certainly doesn't mean everything is going to be okay, and God knows it can't be forced or rushed or facile. But the hope that I have in mind is the hope that Bishop Buddy embodies. Hope as a sacred obligation and a commitment to one another. One of my favorite descriptions of what it means to offer hope as a religious leader comes from a beautiful essay by Reverend Victoria Safford entitled, "The Small Work in the Great Work." She writes, "Our mission is to plant ourselves at the gates of hope, not the prudent gates of optimism, which are somewhat narrower, nor the stalwart, boring gates of common sense, nor the strident gates of self-righteousness, which creak on shrill and angry hinges. People cannot hear us there. They cannot pass through. Nor the cheerful, flimsy garden gate of everything is going to be all right. But a different, sometimes lonely place, the place of truth-telling about your own soul, first of all, and its condition, the place of resistance and defiance, the piece of ground from which you see the world both as it is and as it could be, the place from which you glimpse not only struggle, but joy in the struggle. And we stand there beckoning and calling, telling people what we are seeing, asking people what they see." It is our honor to honor Bishop Marianne Budde today for showing us what it looks like to stand in that sometimes lonely place of truth-telling, and for inviting us to stand there with her, for being an inspiration not only to her own congregation, but to countless people, including religious leaders of all faiths across this nation and around the world. We turn now to a video of our friend, colleague, and visiting scholar, Reverend Rob Schenck, who will present Hebrew College's honorary doctorate to Bishop Budde.
I am pleased and privileged to represent the Hebrew College community, our president, trustees, and faculty in recognizing the Right Reverend Marianne Budde, Episcopal Bishop of Washington, for her extraordinary moral leadership in these tumultuous times. Bishop Marianne, as she is affectionately known, takes her place among a long line of humble servant leaders who have used their unique positions to speak truth to power. Like Jeremiah of old, the bishop could not suppress the burning in her bones at the moment of testing. In righteous prophetic witness, she used her cathedral pulpit to gently and respectfully appeal to President Donald Trump to act with mercy toward those who are understandably fearful of his policies. Bishop Marianne Edgar Budde, in recognition of your extraordinary moral leadership and compassionate care of souls, the Board of Trustees of Hebrew College has voted to confer upon you the degree of Humane Letters Honoris Causa. It's all yours, madam.
Thank you to my dear friend Rob Schenck, to Rabbi Anisfield, to the trustees and all at Hebrew College for this extraordinary honor. And briefly, I would just like to say to those who are receiving degrees alongside my wonderful honorary degree that I am here to offer my warm congratulations to you and to share and bask in the celebration of your great accomplishment. You are stepping in your path toward the next brave thing that is being asked of you, wherever life is taking you, either into active ministry or to ongoing study. And you already know what I have come to learn, which is courage is not a one-time event. It is a series of steps throughout life, some quite public, most private, between us and our God and those closest to us. But through them all, we find our way in this world. As you are coming into your leadership, know that the combination of moral clarity and public witness are essential to the life of faith communities, and those where you will go to serve will be deeply blessed by all the ways you strive to serve your God and serve humanity as you have been so ably taught at Hebrew College. My best to you, my best to the faculty and administration, and again, heartfelt thanks for the honor you have bestowed upon me of being now a proud alumni of your school.
Our next candidate for an honorary degree is Rabbi David Saperstein. I call upon our provost, Rabbi Dan Judson, to escort Rabbi David Saperstein to the podium, and Rabbi Or Rose to join me in saying a few words about him. A rabbi, lawyer, and diplomat for 40 years, David Saperstein served as director of the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, representing the Reform movement to Congress and the administration. He served as well a term as the president of the World Union for Progressive Judaism, the international denomination of Reform Jewry. The first rabbi in American history to have been designated a U.S. ambassador during the second term of the Obama administration, Rabbi Saperstein served as the United States Ambassador for International Religious Freedom, the country's chief diplomat on religious freedom. For 35 years, Rabbi Saperstein taught First Amendment church-state law and Jewish law at Georgetown University Law Center, and currently is a senior research fellow at Georgetown's Berkeley Center for Religion, Peace, and World Affairs. His articles have appeared in publications ranging from the New York Times to the Harvard Law Review. He has served as chair or on the boards and executive committees of a range of organizations, including the NAACP and People for the American Way. He currently serves as the chair of the World Faith Development Dialogue and co-chairs the Multi-Faith Neighbors Network, as well as the World Economic Forum's Global Future Council on Faith and Action. And now I understand why we were emailing at 3 in the morning.
Dear David, in the words of Edith Klein's elementary school teacher, I think you have the potential to be a very good Jewish leader someday. It is my distinct honor to be able to offer brief words of gratitude and blessing as we bestow this honor on you. I wish to do so following the order of the Pesach Seder with 4 lessons that I have learned from you over the last 15 years or so, both through observation and encounter.
I'm the simple son or the wicked son?
All of the above. 1, cultivate personal authenticity. The great African-American theologian and social activist, Reverend Howard Thurman, famously wrote, "There is something in every one of you that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine. It is in you and only you. It is the only true guide you will ever have. your passion for social justice led you to embark on an unusual professional path, twinning religious leadership and the law. As you stated in a 2024 article for the Union of Reform Judaism, quote, "I always thought of religion and law as the two professions that allowed you to both help individual people and change society." The ability to listen for the sound of the genuine in yourself is a model for all of us who wish to contribute authentically to mending the world. As your young legislative assistant, Tamara Upfall, shared with me on Erev Shabbat, we were once returning from a conference, and I casually asked David a question about my professional future. He quickly turned off the road, found a diner where we sat and discussed my options at length while eating massive Reuben sandwiches. Listen for the sound of the genuine between bites. 2, seek the wisdom of your elders. In his book, Thunder in America, news correspondent Bob Faw wrote of you, quote, "Saperstein learned from political masters." Reflecting on these relationships, you wrote, "As I was coming into this work, many of the great figures of the mid-20th century battles for social justice were at the end of their careers. They were very generous. Many of them nurtured and mentored me in ways that had profound impact on my life. Of course, one cannot gain from the wisdom of one's elders without investing in such relationships, humbly, resiliently, boldly, and generously." And as Faw goes on to say, one of the key lessons you learned from your mentors, including the great Al Vorspan and Boston's own Label Fine, is your tenacious, detail-oriented work ethic, which is legendary in Jewish and interreligious circles. 3, recognize our interconnection. In his 1964 Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of the interconnection and interdependence of humanity. King dubbed it the World House. As he stated, "We must learn somehow, some way to live with each other in peace." I was able to observe your interreligious skills directly just 6 weeks ago at a gathering of Jewish and evangelical leaders in Washington, D.C. You and your longtime friend and collaborator, Richard Cizik, modeled for all of us in the room the power of authentic relationships in service of the common good. The goals you have stated numerous times is not unanimity, but understanding. What can we do together? As you stated that evening, quote, "I can't think of a single achievement the Jewish community regards as a great social achievement in America that did not happen because of a bipartisan coalition of decency on Capitol Hill. Living as we are in such challenging and polarized times, allyship is essential. And allyship, as you demonstrate, grows in the soil of relationships." 4, pay it forward. Invest in the next generation. In celebrating the 50th anniversary of your leadership of the Religious Action Center, your successor, Rabbi Jonah Pesner, said the following, quote, "David's project as director emeritus is literally the success of his successor. There isn't advice he won't offer appropriately and kindly. There isn't an introduction he won't make, nor a credential he won't offer. He is the shamash candle. The more he shares with others, the more his own candle shines brightly, and the more light illuminates the darkness. Along with tens of thousands of teens, young adults, graduate students, and clergy that you have mentored over 50 plus years now, I want to thank you personally for for your vision, your encouragement, and your wisdom. Rabbi David Saperstein, may you experience many more years of good health and happiness, and may you continue, in the words of Congressman John Lewis, to cause much, much more good trouble.
Well, how gratifying to receive this honor from this groundbreaking, influential Jewish college seminary. It is made even more special for me by those with whom I share being honored to this day. With a gifted crafter of Hebrew literature, that language at once sacred and ordinary, so central to the ethos of the course of study of this institution. With a champion of social justice and equal rights for all, including all of those of diverse sexual orientation and gender identities, and with a good friend, an inspiring Christian leader, visionary colleague, and key ally, whose voice of conscience spoken at a crucial crossroads for America and the world, spoke truth to power in the living embodiment of the prophetic witness so central to this institution, to Judaism, indeed to all Abrahamic faiths, all major faiths. And an even more personal note for me, to be here with the Ellenson family, a relationship of 55 years. Wow. Here at Rafi's ordination this afternoon, truly Kosi Ravaya, my cup runneth over. To those very graduates of Hebrew College, rabbis and educators, new and seasoned, who serve the Jewish people in such varied realms, in academia, in hillels, in hospitals and in hospice, in day schools, whatever field of service you choose, you have my abiding appreciation for what you are contributing to the Jewish people. But a special shout out to those rabbis who have served, are serving, will serve congregations. I chose a different path for most of my rabbinate, but bless you in choosing a path truly unique amongst all professions on earth, that of the congregational clergy. Unique, a bold term perhaps, but I submit to you, there is no other job anywhere that allows one person to interact as holistically with every stage of life of others, from birth to death, in good times and in bad, celebrating and mourning, teaching and counseling, comforting and inspiring, shaping the lives of those who will choose to interact with you. What a sacred calling with which we have been blessed. What an extraordinary profession. It means so much to me. This honor is given in by, I'm going to do something. I'm going to really impose here. They already encouraged me to take a couple of minutes more than the handful they had. I was just so inspired by Indeed. I want to just share a true story that represents what I'm saying about the rabbi here. So I'm going to talk David Saperstein style. Early 80s, the Reform movement was faced with the question of whether or not to admit the first gay congregation in the country out in Los Angeles, and it voted to do so. And Alex Schindler said, but it is up to the gay community whether they want their own congregations or they are going to be welcomed in our congregations. But I am calling on all of our congregations to open their doors to the LG, well, I guess back in those days, it was the LG community here. And it created quite a controversy. It's the early 80s we're talking about. And in my congregation in Washington, D.C., Jane Lippman, the rabbi, decided to hold an open forum on that with the debate. And there were 700 people, more than there have been since Yom Kippur, who came out here. One of the speakers was the young woman, charismatic young woman, who was the second president of the Washington congregation. And she says, I want to tell you why I'm here. I realized that I was a lesbian in my second year in college, my identity began to take place. And I was terrified. I did not know a single person in my entire life who I knew to be gay. I couldn't tell my parents. I felt all alone. And then when it came time for Thanksgiving and I went back, I called my rabbi and said I needed to talk to you. He invited me over. I poured out my heart to him, how terrified I was, how confused I was, how uncertain I was. And he listened without saying a word. She said, I don't know whether he had heard this many times before or I was the first one. I didn't know what his reaction would be, but he looked at me and he said, Laura, you are an extraordinary young woman. I've known you since the day you were born. Nothing has changed on that. I don't know where this new path will take you, but what I do know, you will always be the remarkable person you are, and I will always be there for you. If you want to tell your parents you want me to come, I will come and talk with them, or I'll talk to them after. She said, I went to the college homecoming service afterwards, and without telling me, he called me up to light the candles. And as I stood there, I knew I had a place in Jewish life, and that's why I'm here. I mean, it wasn't a dry eye in the house, and I walked up to her and I said, you know, my name's David Saperstein, I run the Religious Action Center, we're kind of champions for LGBT. She said, I know who you are. That rabbi was your father. So if you wonder about my commitment to the Congregational Rabbinate, here, my father, 50 years in one congregation as a beloved rabbi. It means so much to me that this honor is given by a Jewish institution as curriculum, training, and social justice aesthetic is the embodiment and affirmation of the work of Tzedek Havrati, of Tikkun Olam, that has been the lifelong passion of my heart. Allow me then a very brief reflection on why social justice is and should be so central to Jewish life and to our Jewish identity, and must remain so in North America and in Israel, as recent events so dramatically testify, indeed everywhere Jews dwell. First, because God said so. Is it not self-evident that we cannot fulfill our destiny to be Or L'Goyim, a light to the nations, that we cannot respond to God's central call to us to be a holy people if we retreat from the struggles for justice, for peace, for equality in our nation and in the world? You shall be holy, for the eternal your God is holy, God commands. And how does our Judaism tell us we can strive to be like God, that we can manifest that holiness? In many ritual ways, in many ceremonial ways, but by feeding the hungry and removing the stumbling block before the blind, by speaking out against injustice and paying the laborer a fair and timely wage, by tearing apart the chains of the oppressed, and by sheltering the homeless, by preserving God's creation, and by welcoming the stranger and embracing the other, by creating courts of justice and a marketplace, indeed an economic system that is fair and honest and equitable. That Hebrew College, under the inspiring leadership of President Sharon Cohen Anisfeld, in its integration of social justice texts and themes into its rabbinic teaching, in the dedicated and creative social justice efforts of its student body, and in the vibrant new efforts of the interfaith arena of its Miller Center and the continuing remarkable work of my friend Dora Rose, all of this embraces this vision of Judaism that your graduates are doing in synagogues and other Jewish institutions throughout North America and Israel across the globe. And second, we cannot meet the challenge of Jewish continuity without addressing the central role of social justice in our community. Polls have repeatedly shown that commitment to or involvement in Tikkun Olam being in every stream of Judaism, even in the Orthodox community, one of, if not the most common organizing principle and expression of Jewish identity for American Jews, including communities that are the key targets of our continuity efforts, the young and the unaffiliated. And this I know, after all my years of work here, any program of Jewish continuity that does not build on that reality, and any program in which we fail to live up to the values that we have preached will not succeed. For if the Judaism we offer our young does not speak to the great moral issues of their lives and of the world they will inherit from us, for so many of them it will fail to capture their imagination, their engagement, or their loyalty. So may all of you Hebrew College graduates continue, Mechayel Lechayel, from strength to strength, in your historic work of weaving together Torah, Avodah, Gemilut Chasadim into a luminous talit of Jewish life for generations to come. Thank you for what all of you do. Thank you for this great honor.
Thank you so much. We turn now to you, our graduates. Before we present certificates and degrees, I want to invite you to take a moment to think about the journey of these last several years. Think specifically about a teacher who has believed in you and helped you believe in yourself. Think about a chavruta who has asked a question you never thought of before, or with whom you've shared that rush of new insight, of chidush. Think about the individuals and the communities you have already been serving. Someone who's been touched by your own teaching. Someone who has seen themselves reflected more fully and lovingly in your eyes. I don't need to tell you that you are stepping into leadership as educators and as rabbis in a very challenging moment. You'll hear that a few times today. It's a moment that will call upon you to live and work from a place of such deep empathy, humility, courage, and compassion. I do want to remind you, because it's so easy for all of us to forget, that you haven't reached this moment alone, and you don't leave here alone. I want to urge you to continue to seek out teachers and friends. Make other people your teachers. Let yourself be claimed by responsibility to friends. It may take more effort to do this as you leave here. It is worth the effort. And of course, the third part of that teaching from Pirkei Avot, the most difficult of all, Dan kol adam lekaf zchut. Judge every person, judge the whole person favorably. In these unforgiving times, try to offer a little grace. Judge others favorably. In the words of the timeless teaching, be kind, for everyone is waging a great battle. Last night, we counted the 42nd day of the Omer. Several commentators link the 49 days of this sacred season to the 49 Kinyanei Torah, the 48 Kinyanei Torah, the 48 attributes a person needs to cultivate in order to acquire the fullness of Torah. The Vilna Gaon adds an important observation. He says no one person can embody all 48 attributes. That is why we learn in Chavruta with study companions. Ein haTorah niknet ela b'chavura. The Torah is only acquired together. May the Torah you have learned together here continue to accompany you, to anchor you wherever you go, even and especially when you're feeling alone. When I was ordained 35 years ago this month, I also had to write a vision statement, an ordination statement, and I recently came across it and wanted to share it with you, or share with you just the last sentence of it. I wrote 35 years ago, I pray that I will remain open to being touched and inconvenienced by the many voices of our tradition, by the diverse experiences of the people around me, and by the mystery of life itself. To each of our graduates today, to every one of our students and alumni, thank you for the ways in which you have each lifted up the many voices of our tradition. Thank you for the ways in which you have touched and inconvenienced us. Mamish. Together, may we help each other stay open to the mystery of life itself. We will now proceed with the conferring of academic certificates and degrees. Dr. Susie Tanchel will present the candidates for degrees in Jewish education.
The development of Jewish educators has been a core component of Hebrew College's mission since its founding. President Anisfeld, I am pleased and proud to acknowledge the following graduates from our programs in Jewish education. For the certificates in Emerging Trends in Jewish Education and Jewish Educational Leadership, Elijah Cohen Gordon, Joshua Hare, Rachel Pollack, Naomi Weingast. For the Masters of Jewish Education, Elisheva Prippis.
To our yeah, you'll come up with everybody. To our education students, in recognition of the requirements you have completed, upon the recommendation of the faculty and with the approval of the Board of Trustees, I am pleased to confer upon you your certificates and degrees from Hebrew College. Congratulations. I now invite Rabbi Dan Judson, Provost, and Rabbi Daniel Klein, Dean of our Rabbinical School, to present the candidates of the class of 2025.
President Anisfeld, I am pleased to present the candidates who've completed the requirements for rabbinical ordination. They've also completed a Master of Arts in Jewish Studies or a Master of Jewish Education. This afternoon, rabbinical students will participate in a special ordination ceremony.
Please come forward as your name is called and remain standing on the bima for a photograph until everyone has been called. Deborah Joyce Anstanding. Wilhelmina Anna Davidson. Rafi Stern Ellenson. Naomi Gert Lind. Simcha Halpert Hansen. David Abraham Kaplinski. Akiva Nelson. Sarah Casey Pollock. Elisheva Rose Pripis. Matthew Allen Schultz. Benjamin Michael Summers. Aaron Stanley Wander.
Okay, here it is. In recognition of the completion of your requirements, upon the recommendation of the faculty and with the approval of the Board of Trustees, I am pleased to confer your degrees and recognize. You may be seated for now. I would like to now call upon rabbinical student Anna Wolf to offer a closing prayer.
The rings of a tree tell its story. Each concentric ring represents a year of tree growth, starting from the middle point and working its way outward. By looking at a stump, it's possible to understand what each year meant in the life of that tree. Years of nourishment result in a thick ring, whereas years of drought give way to a thin one. A blackened scar can tell of a forest fire, and a curve or dip in the ring pattern might tell of the growth of a new branch. This week, we start the book of Bamidbar, the fourth book of the Torah. Bamidbar is the story of the Israelites journeying through the Midbar, the wilderness. It's an almanac that tracks the story of where the people go during their 40 years or 40 rings of wandering. Here the people found no water and were thirsty. Here they cried out to God and they received sustenance. Graduates, each of you has a story. Each your own almanac marked with people and places, a series of consecutive rings that form the unique shape of your own journey. God of our ancestors, bless and sustain these graduates who have dedicated their lives to continuing the work of carrying us through the Midbar, of guiding and tending the Jewish people. Bless them with seasons of growth, of being nourished by the life force of Torah and provided by the source of all life, with rings growing healthy and thick. And in the moments of drought, when they feel disconnected or when perhaps anxiety or self-doubt overcomes them, bless them to recognize that even the thinnest of rings is still growth. Harachaman, O merciful one, bless these graduates with growth, year after year, big rings and small. And may the trees of their lives fill the wilderness with stories.
Beautiful, thank you. This concludes our commencement ceremony. Mazal Tov again to our 2025 graduating class and to all those who've been honored here today. On behalf of the Hebrew College community, thank you all so much for joining us. You are all warmly invited to join us back here as our ordination ceremonies continue at 1:45 p.m. We conclude these exercises with a musical offering from our student ensemble.
We hope that you will join us in singing some blessing to all of the graduates and honorees. Yamba, yamba,